Good morning, everyone. Welcome to this week's Boom's Pop-Up Podcast, where we're going to be talking about one of the best years in gaming, depending on who you ask. I was around for the 360 days, and 2007 netted us probably some of the most incredible franchises that are still going strong in 2018. And in order to do that, I needed someone with as much passion as I have for the classics. And that is, of course, Dean from Creating Beyond Limits. Good morning, dude. First and foremost, congratulations once again for crossing the 1,000 subs on YouTube. I know you wanted to do it before your birthday. You got that in spades. Your channel is growing each and every day. Congratulations again and welcome.
Well, thanks. Like you said on the last pop-up podcast, it's going to happen today. I'm going to make it happen. And whatever sorcery you did, the magic worked. And I was just so happy. And yeah, I had the goal before my birthday, which is coming up soon. So I'm very happy. Yeah, I can't wait to talk gaming. 2017, like you said, depending on who you ask, it's one of the best years in gaming, hands down, because there are so many franchises that came out or got sequels, and those franchises are still very relevant today in 2018. And I just can't wait to discuss it. I love talking games with you. It's always a blast, and the time always just flies by.
Yeah, you know, I mean, that's the fun thing about these shows. They don't take too much of your time. But you're having a really good time when you start the show and then you're like, we were talking for an hour. So, I mean, obviously that's a good sign. But you know what? I don't want to waste any more time because we have a lot to cover. 2007 is considered and defined as the seventh generation of gaming. And in that era of gaming, whether you're, because, you have to, when I do these shows, you have to take into consideration that someone that's listening is just getting into gaming. So if I sound like it's being a little boring, giving you a backstory, it's not because we want to just stretch it out. It's because I like to give a gaming history for the people that are listening. So in that era, the seventh generation, we had the Xbox 360, of course, the PlayStation 3, and of course, Nintendo's Wii. And in that generation, what's pretty amazing is there were a ton of sequels, which I'll go into and break down the sequels, but there was also a ton of intellectual properties that were new games. And that list I'm going to read off is pretty stout. First and foremost is Assassin's Creed. Then you have Bioshock. Crackdown, Crisis, Mass Effect, Portal, Rock Band, Skate, The Darkness, The Witcher, Uncharted, and Super Paper Mario for the Wii. Out of those titles, Dean, I mean, just if I stopped right there, that would be enough to consider it possibly one of the
pretty
best.
Amazing list.
Yeah, pretty. In your opinion, in that particular list of new titles, what stands out to you as the best of the bunch?
Well, for me, the original Mass Effect, hands down. Just this, like the gameplay, it definitely doesn't hold up today. Especially like the first Mass Effect, it had the worst gameplay. But the story and the characters are so rich. The detail, like everything about the first Mass Effect, other than the combat, is just amazing. Like it's so fun, and I was so invested in the choices that I was making throughout the game, and then the certain choice I had to make halfway through on who are you going to save between, who and who. No spoilers, because if you never played Mass Effect 1, I don't want to ruin anything about those games, that series. You have to go play it. Yeah, but yeah, Mass Effect, hands down, is the one that stands out the most, because that game is a game, like I said, I'd consider getting an N7 tattoo or something with my Troy Force tattoo, because like it's something that gaming is something that I'm just so involved in. I love it and I'm passionate about it, and Mass Effect is a series that I hold very dear to my heart. And we already went into the whole Mass Effect Andromeda stuff, but the original trilogy and Mass Effect 1 was just amazing.
It's funny because Mass Effect, when you talk about it in 2018, there's a bit of a pause in most people that I speak with, because immediately you match it up with Andromeda, which left a bad taste in a lot of people's mouths. Again, we discussed that on one of the earlier shows. Not the worst game in the world, certainly, but not up to par of what we were used to in regards to quality when it comes to Mass Effect. So Mass Effect 1, you know, it's funny when you talk about that game, what jumps into my head right away is story. The story in Mass Effect was brilliant, and it was as good as, in my opinion, I may get booed for this, so I apologize in advance, but as good as any of the Star Wars stories, because it told such an emotional roller coaster type of story where there were love interests and there were people you could save and people you couldn't save, and you know, you could go rogue, you can be a good guy, you can kind of be in the middle. It was amazing from start to finish. But you know, let's talk about some of the games that weren't new franchises but were coming out in that particular same year. First of all, you had Resident Evil 4 for the Wii, and you know what? For that console, it looked amazing. You had, now this is the big one, and it should have been on the list for new games, but because it's they've had 3 before this, it wasn't, and that is Call of Duty Modern Warfare. Now, and we got to talk about that for a second, because that, in my opinion, just not only dominated sales but took the gaming world by storm. I mean, the online, it was new for the franchise, and the Modern Warfare was the first time we ever had a taste of that. You know, everything was World War II. What are your memories of seeing or playing this game for the first time, Dean?
Call of Duty 4. I think, like, I believe strongly that that was the first game I played on Xbox Live when I connected my Xbox to the internet for the first time. That was a game that I was playing, and it's a fantastic game. Like, that along with Black Ops 2 for me are the best Call of Duty games, hands down. Well, it was Black Ops 1, sorry, not Black Ops 2. Yeah, but they were the best Call of Duty games. Like, I have so many fantastic memories playing this game, whether it was online or just when I was in my friends and we were doing split screen. We were doing like 2 or 3 player split screen. We were playing on the Crossfire map, always that map, because it was all of our favorites, and it was just amazing. It was so much fun. You get into arguments, but like, you're looking at my screen and stuff like that.
Yeah.
It was just so much fun. A great game. And ever since, like, when that game took off, like, so many games were trying to copy it, because that was the first major success for a Call of Duty game.
Yep.
And it just took off since, and every year, everyone's been like, oh, new Call of Duty game every year is gonna get like instant money because they still sell extremely well, even though they have been slowing down and the quality and stuff just hasn't been the same. But people still buy them because they attach it with, like, some of the fans still attach it the same way they did back then, and they just haven't disconnected from it. But for me personally, I disconnected way back at Black Ops 2. I haven't really bought a Call of Duty game since. But yeah, Call of Duty Call of Duty Modern Warfare 4 was the game that I personally attached to the most. And it was fantastic just playing it from start to finish, the campaign. Like, I know I was talking about the multiplayer there, but I had a fantastic single player, which the new Call of Duty game is taken away for some reason. But yeah, it had a great single player, a fantastic opening mission on that boat. Like, that is just such a cool mission. It's not very long, but it's short and sweet, and it really gets you hyped for the rest of the game. So yeah, I loved it.
Well, that game obviously it laid the groundwork for pretty much what we're playing today, and I am going to agree with you 100%. The current Modern Warfare games, I don't care so much that they've gotten really futuristic. I know a lot of people had a problem with the wall running and the jetpacks and things. I don't necessarily mind that, but I am going to say that the stories definitely have, the storytelling in these games, in the last few anyway, have not been that good. They've probably been very, at the weak part of that particular game, and it could be why we don't have a single player campaign in Black Ops 4, which releases very soon. And again, I've said this publicly and privately, I wouldn't pay $5 for that game. I heard a lot of people had a real horrible time on the beta. I didn't even bother because I'm not interested. I really don't play it for the online. I play it for the story. And you know what? That's fine. Activision just saved me 6501. It's perfectly fine. But I'm going to read the list of the rest of the titles because it is a bit of a list. So if I go on for 2 minutes, folks, it's not because I'm trying to stretch it out. I just want to give you the idea of what came out that particular year. After Modern Warfare, we have Halo 3. We have the Orange Box, Guitar Hero 2, Team Fortress 2, which still is amazing that people are playing it to this day, God of War 2, Forza Motorsport 2, which just became free for this month's game. No, I'm sorry. That's Forza Motorsport. That was Horizon. Half-Life Episode 2, which, of course, we're all still waiting for Episode 3. Peggle, which was incredible.
Fantastic game.
Project Gotham Racing. Now, that is a fantastic racing game. UK Dazarus is in the... Holy cow. I got to just pause for a second because my eyeballs just fell out of my head. Josette Rivera, $40 super chat. Wow. That's all I could say is holy cow. And man, you know, when you see stuff like this, it really takes my breath away, and I'm a bit stunned by the amount simply because that's a lot of money, and a lot of people don't understand that the little monies like that, they help out big time. You know, after it's all said and done, you know, most YouTubers put a lot of work in, and it is like I said, I'm a bit taken aback, as you can say. I'm stuttering a bit, but thank you again, Josette Rivera, for that amazing $40 super chat gift. I want to continue with the list. After Peggle, we had Project Gotham Racing. We had The Legend of Zelda, The Phantom Hourglass, which was fantastic. Eternal Sonata. A lot of people don't know what that is. That was a JRPG that was fantastic. John Woo's Stranglehold, Heavenly Sword, Warhawk for the PS3, Pac-Man Championship Edition, which is, I still play that game. That's how good it is. Final Fantasy Tactics, War of the Lions, and Sega Rally Revo. Okay, so Dean, I'm going to go right back to you. Now, with all of the games that I listed, besides Modern Warfare, what stands out as like the diamond in the rough, if you will, of all these games that were coming out based on sequels?
Based on sequels, well, you know, Halo 3 is a game I've heard a little bit about.
Yeah, I think I heard about that one.
Yeah, Bungie developed that, right?
Yes.
So yeah, Halo 3, I put so many hours into that game, especially when I was in school at the time and I should have been doing like homework or something. Yeah, just so many hours in custom games, like playing Infection, Forge, just playing the normal multiplayer too in general. Like Halo 3 was hands down out of this world. It was ahead of its time. Like just the stuff, the features, everything that I had all in one package. Like they delivered such a fantastic game, and that's just the multiplayer. Like Halo 3 has a fantastic co-op campaign.
Yes.
Like with an amazing ending, and it was just so good. Like the story length is pretty good too for Halo 3. So you get Scarab battles and stuff. It's just so amazing. So Halo 3 definitely stands out as the best because I put so many hours into it, and it's a legendary series, and it's still pretty relevant in 2018. Resident Evil 4 also, even though it's the Wii version, like I'm just saying, as Resident Evil 4 in general was a fantastic game, which I've double dipped and bought it a few times because it's Capcom know that game, knows people like that game, so they have a habit of re-releasing it on newer systems every year. Whenever a new system comes out, you bet there's going to be a Resident Evil 4 version of that eventually at some point. But Halo was the one that stands out the most, and I think some people would agree with me on that because Halo 3, fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I that is one of the games that, first of all, a lot of people don't know this, and I'm gonna, throw it out there. My wife, who's amazing, got me the Halo Collector's Edition that came with the helmet. It just so happens that Halo 3 launched on my birthday, September 25th of 2007. I was a lot younger then, but I'll never forget that. I played Halo 3. The story itself was amazing. Like the campaign was fantastic start to finish, but that is where I think, in my opinion, Halo really hit its stride with online multiplayer. I played Halo 3 online like it was going out of style. I actually played that more than I played the single player, and I loved it. But you know, when you say all of these games out front, like we're talking about 2007, and I gave you the new properties as well as the sequel portion of the games that came out. When you look at that list from a distance, you're blown away by how many incredible titles 1 year could possibly hold. Now, as gaming continues to grow and it progresses year after year after year, newer gamers that weren't around in 2007 or even played games back then may not revere this as the greatest year in gaming. Some may say 2017 was the biggest year in gaming for some people. And I, you know what, I would be hard pressed to disagree, because 2017 was incredible. But when you look at this list, it is really just incredible, the sheer amount of wonderful games crammed into 1 year. So, Dean, I want to, we do have our top fives. I don't want to, I'll probably save that for the end. But like, for instance, the PS3 era, in the beginning, obviously there were a lot of issues. You had, the price of it. You had, the cell technology was holding back developers. But somewhere, even with all the problems Sony was having with that console, it still pumped out Heavenly Sword, and it still pumped out games like Warhawk. Two fantastic titles. But I kind of want to dive a little bit into Heavenly Sword, because we know who made that game, and now they're currently owned by Microsoft, and they're eventually going to be considered a big, ginormous AAA developer. What do you remember of Heavenly Sword? Did you ever play it? Did you own it?
Unfortunately, I never played it.
Okay.
I didn't have a PS3 at the time. I only had a choice between one of the consoles. I had no other money. It was like family getting it, and I went with the Xbox. And like, I don't regret that. But Heavenly Sword was a game that I thought looked pretty badass. Like, it looked like a game I wanted to play. Like, there were so many PlayStation games that came out that I wanted to play, that I have played, like The Last of Us and Uncharted and stuff, that got ports onto the PlayStation 4 because they were always games I wanted to play. I had nothing against the PlayStation. It was just a money thing at the time. But that was a game that I was interested in, and I would have liked if they made a sequel, or if they did do a remaster for the PlayStation 4, because I'd definitely pick it up. But from what I remember, the game looked beautiful. It looked smooth. The gameplay looked awesome. The main character was badass. So yeah, I haven't watched too much about it, because I don't like watching videos for games that I'm interested on, because I don't want to spoil them, especially if they're single player.
Yeah, I mean, look, there's something to be said about preview videos, or even demos for that matter, especially if you're really interested in the game and you want to be really enveloped in the story and the character. You see the first 15 minutes of any game, and it depends on the gamer. Some people don't want to wait. Some, like people like me and you, who have a real appreciation for single player storytelling, you would be hard pressed not to watch it, because you want to be surprised. But I want to talk about another title that just finished up its story arc, and I'm really interested to see where they're going to go, and that is the Uncharted series. In 2007, we were all introduced to the modern version of Indiana Jones in the form of Nathan Drake. Now, granted, one is certainly not the strongest title in the franchise. In my opinion, it might be the weakest. And that's my opinion, because obviously for me personally, my most revered title on the PlayStation 3 still stands as Uncharted 2. I still am blown away by how incredible that game was. But I want to go back to Uncharted 1. This again, the game did have it had some issues, especially when it came to the hit detection when firing the guns. The bad guys were basically bullet sponge. You could pop someone in the head 10 times and it wouldn't go down. But it still told a pretty awesome story. Again, this is my opinion, and I couldn't wait for the sequel. And I was really hoping that it would get one. Eventually, it did. What are some of your fondest memories of that particular game?
Like I said, I didn't play Uncharted when it released in 2007.
Mm-hmm.
But I did fix that, and I did play it like 2 years ago when the Nathan Drake.
Better late than never, dude.
Yeah, when the Nathan Drake collection came out, that's
nice.
when I picked up my PS4. I got the bundle with the game, played all three of them, getting ready for the fourth one. I wouldn't say one was for some reason the third game was the one that I thought was probably the worst.
Yeah, I might agree with you there. 3 was definitely not the best of the bunch for sure.
2, I think we could all agree, like you said, was hands down. This is amazing. This is so ahead of its time. Everything about this game was just, the pacing was fantastic. But the first game, like the combat, because it was the first one, like when you go back to Mass Effect 1, it doesn't age the best. But what stands out for the Uncharted series is just how likable the main cast is. Like Nathan Drake, like the second he starts talking and interacting and stuff, like he's instantly likable. And that's such a strong thing for a main character in a game, is to have that likability factor, that you're going to instantly attach yourself to this character and be in it and want to see what's going to happen, where this journey is going to take him. I was so because I knew what Uncharted was when I got it, obviously, because I seen stuff, and it was a series that I always wanted to play. So I didn't know anything about it because I avoided stuff for that reason, because it's a single player game. So when the first game started taking different turns later on in the game, you know what I'm talking about. When it's not all just people and shooting, it's other stuff and whatnot. No spoilers. But yeah, like it just, I was all like, "Whoa!"
The game's a little old. So listen, folks, if you haven't played Uncharted 1 or any of the games that we talked about, I'm sorry if we spoil it, but 2007 was a long time ago. Yeah, I had a really fantastic time with that game. But you know what? There's a game that I have to talk about, and I think that we're all chomping at the bit to see a sequel. Unfortunately, Kevin Levine has moved on. I would love to see him come back and reinvent the series, because obviously it was his baby. And I'm talking about Bioshock. Now, it might have been the end of last year. For some reason, I got really in the mood to replay the HD collection, which I had purchased in probably a year before. I mean, my backlog is shameful. Which is why I'm just about to finish The Walking Dead season 1, which, again, don't throw rocks at me, folks. It's just my backlog is ridiculous.
I just want to say one thing about The Walking Dead thing. I have to say props out to Telltale Games, because I think that's a brilliant pre-order bonus. When you pre-order the new season, you get the collection for free. That's crazy.
Awesome. That's probably listen, if you don't have those games and you're interested, let's say, for instance, you've never played the Walking Dead games, but you played Minecraft, or you played Guardians of the Galaxy, or you played Game of Thrones, or any of their other titles, this deal is ridiculous. Buy one season and get a ton of other stuff for free. You can't beat that. But in regards to Bioshock, this was the ultimate successor to System Shock that was out many years before. And the world that was crafted for the player the twists and turns, the graphics, the big daddies, the little sisters, and the powers. I mean, you know, the difficult choice of whether or not to sacrifice the little sisters, you know, for more Eve. It just was really something special. I still think it stands out as probably one of the best in the series. Some people will argue with me and say, you know, it was 2, but now, Dean, you played Bioshock, correct?
Yeah, I played Bioshock, Bioshock 2, and Bioshock Infinite plus the DLC. I love the series.
What is some of your takeaways in regards to this releasing in 2007 and just blowing the doors off of anything we had experienced before in a first-person kind of horror game?
Yeah. Well, first of all, props to the opening of the game is fantastic. When you're crashing, you're in the ocean, and then you're making your way down. Like, it's already like what's going on, kind of a mystery. You don't know where you are, what you're doing, and then you go down into this underwater like city called Rapture, and there's lots of creepiness, like Big Daddy's little sisters. What are the splicers? That's what the people are called, aren't they?
Yes, splicers, correct.
Yeah, like it's just so creepy and dark at the start, and you just have your little wrench. I can't remember if you get a pistol straight away, but you have your wrench and you're just there like smacking them in the face. Like the game looked amazing for its time. Like it still does hold up extremely well. Like I'm not trying to diss on it. Like they went above and beyond with that game, especially because of how soon it came out on the 360. You know, over time, when developers work on a console more, they end up looking better. Hence why, like, Red Dead Redemption, Skyrim, and all look so good at the end of the current generation, was because they had so long to, like, know the ins and outs of the Xbox and PlayStation. But Bioshock came out relevantly, like, 2 years after. So they didn't have much time, and they still delivered a fantastic-looking game. It has twists and turns and, you know, awesome quotes like "would you kindly," like the video and stuff like that. You know, that line, "would you kindly," though, you know,
Yes,
people know what you're talking about. You know, such a good game. The atmosphere is out of this world. It's just, they nailed the creep factor. The big daddies look amazing, and the whole idea of harvesting or saving the little sisters to get stronger and stuff was just amazing. Like everything about the game. Like the ending probably wasn't the best, because I know some people don't really like the ending of the game, but everything about it, like the journey from where you start to how it finishes, is literally fantastic. With the power up abilities, like the different elemental things, like if you shoot lightning at water, you know, stuff's gonna happen. I thought that was pretty cool.
yeah,
So
absolutely. Especially like I said, you know, if there was you know, like gas or some sort of fluid on the floor that was flammable, if you threw a fireball at it or you shot it, it would catch on fire. Little things like that that just made the game so much better. You know, obviously, if you were getting attacked by a lot of people and you jump on a desk or something and it was, you know, a foot of water, you can execute everyone.
yeah, and but Rapture is also an iconic part of gaming. Like that's a city people would know from Bioshock because just of how much it stood out as like the underwater city. Not many games have stuff like that, and it was completely unique to the game. And it was just something like that was a character in itself. Rapture was like, they put so much time into the game, the map, and everything like that, and it was just fantastic to go through. It's why people wanted it to return, and after, like, it wasn't in Bioshock Infinite, they made a whole DLC where you return to Rapture because people just love Rapture because it's amazing.
Yes, well, I mean, listen, it was a unique, never before done underwater city that had so much life, and that's the thing that's crazy about this. You know, when I say that, you know, it had so much life to it, but everyone was gone except for the splicers. And even with, you know, it wasn't a bustling city like it obviously was prior to the game starting. It had so much rich atmosphere that gave it that spook factor that you know, you heard a noise around the corner, and even being power up, you were a bit cautious to turn the corner because you didn't know if you were going to run into a group of splicers or possibly a big daddy. And you know, obviously, when you piss them off, look out. But that game holds a real special place in my heart. But I want to talk about another game that I think everyone could really, you know, hang their hat on, and really came out of nowhere. The orange box. Let's talk about that for a second, because everything that was packed into that for the price, and I if I recall correctly, the games were $60 back then as well. If I'm wrong, let me know in the chat. But they packed all of those games, and one that stands out immediately, besides Half-Life. Half-Life is always going to be a classic. We're always going to be waiting for episode 3, and unfortunately, that's the thing. But Portal, immediately jumps off the page when you say orange box. Do you remember playing this game? Did you buy this game? And what about this game for you as a fan, Dean, stood out?
The value was hands down amazing. Unfortunately, Half-Life is a game that I didn't get the experience. I did get the orange box, but while it was in my backlog, I lended it to a friend, and I just never seen it again. So I just never bought it again. But I need to fix it. I know. I need to fix it because I know just how amazing Half-Life is supposed to be. I think because of how hyped it is just why I haven't gotten to it yet. Because it's like, what if it's not that good? Or I don't want to be the only person to dislike it. Or what if it ends on a cliffhanger? I know it's not going to continue because like Valve are not doing Half-Life. And then like the next one, they haven't. People have been waiting like how many years? Like since 2007? So
yeah, it's been a bit, to say the least.
Like I've already been waiting for an Alan Wake sequel, and that's been killing, so I don't want to do that to myself again. But I did play a bit of Portal. I don't think I cleared it, but like Portal was a nice little addition that they added to the orange box, which took off like instantly. The success, people loved Portal, and that was enough for them to invest and make a sequel, like a fully fledged game with co-op and everything. So like from what I know, regardless of how much I played, was the orange box at its time was offering some crazy amount of value which wasn't seen at the time. You'd buy one game for 60 or 70. This was giving you 3 games because you got Team Fortress also. So They were literally like, here, you want all these games for the price of one? All of them are unique, different, and awesome. None of them are bad. They all offer different things for different type of players. You can like all 3, or you can like really love one of them and just kind of like the others. But either way, the value was insane.
Well, big shout out to Sinso Elite, who said that the package back then was $50. It was a retail price of $50 for those 4. I mean, technically it's 3 because you're getting an episode of Half-Life. But episode 1 and 2 were fantastic. I think I might have beaten Half-Life a dozen times on different consoles over the years. But that was $50 for that amount of value. I mean, Team Fortress 2 is still played today, which is bananas. And again, it's great, but it's also very frustrating because we don't have sequels to any of these games. Portal 2 did get we did get a sequel to Portal. We didn't get episode 3 of Half-Life. At this point, I don't even know if we're ever going to get a Half-Life 3. Which
you can probably do a show talking about Valve and how they need to get back into making sequels and everything in general.
That might be something that we can bring up in a future show. That might be interesting because Valve needs to come back to developing games. I think that there's been word that they want to get back into doing games. So I know that there have been rumors of a Left 4 Dead 3, which everybody in the world would buy and wants. But let's move on to some of the other fantastic titles that again jump off the page here. I want to go and talk about Rock Band for a second because Guitar Hero, a lot of people don't know this, released exclusively on the PlayStation 2. And eventually, when Guitar Hero 2 came out, it was multi-plat. It had 360 and it also had the PS3 in tow. But Rock Band was special for a lot of reasons. I thought that the music was better than Guitar Hero, to be completely honest. And it was the first time that you were able to get together and logistically make a band with your friends, because they offered vocals with the mic, a guitar and a bass, and for the first time ever, a drum set. And I remember seeing this package. First of all, the box was as big as me. I could logistically, it would look like a coffin when you went to go pick this thing up. And I remember playing for hours and hours and hours and buying all the DLC. I thought Rock Band at that time was a better value. I thought that the instruments felt better than what came with the Activision Guitar Hero. But Dean, do you remember Rock Band? And if you do, and you have any memories with it, what stands out for you for that particular game coming in the same year of all these other incredible titles?
Well, it took off like a storm. You know, those games were around for a good while before they stopped, with multiple sequels and franchise games. I've only ever played Rock Band. I never owned that one personally. The only one I owned was Rock Band: The Beatles.
Oh, that's a great one. I still have that.
Yeah, so that was the one I owned, but I did play normal Rock Band. And the games are just so fun to play. Like, they're great party games. They're just great to have when you have friends over, or anyone in general, like your partner. Anything that, like, if you like the music and you like goofing off and just, unless you're like me, you're pretending you can actually play an instrument, because I can't play a guitar. So it's all like, look at all this skill I have, even though I sucked at the game and I just didn't have any skill. But, it was fun to fail. It was fun, like, just great music. They always had great music. Like, the library of songs they've always included on the disc for the games were amazing. And then they also added like DLC songs and stuff like that you can buy separately, so you don't have to buy a bundle of songs you don't like. You can pick and choose the ones that you do like, so you're not going to get ripped off.
Yep.
And as far as I know, like in most of the Rock Band games, the songs carried over onto the other games, so you didn't have to double dip. Am I wrong about that?
No, you bought what happened was, when the Rock Band titles came out, when Rock Band 2 came out, you paid $5 to transfer all the licenses over. So
that's neat.
It was $5, one-time charge, and all of the songs from the previous Rock Band came over, and they did it again with 3. I'm almost positive. Hold on just a second. Talk about, let's see, just talk about for a second Forza Motorsport and your opinions on it.
Forza, as we all know, is a great racing game. It's the Microsoft-owned IP. Currently, they have like 7 of them out at the moment. I'm not a big racing game fan, but if I was to buy a racer, it would be the Forza series, because one thing Forza has always had, and that is an amazing customizing like abilities for your cars, and that I always thought that was fantastic, hands down amazing. And they're just very fun games. What else? The online was always awesome. I was never very good. Like, my friend at the time really loved his car games, so I would always play local multiplayer. And it's just crazy because, like, I can't drift or do anything like that. So, Daz, if you're still, like, listening, you'd probably kick my ass in that game too. I'll totally beat you in Mortal Kombat again at some point. But yeah, Forza, I don't know what to say other than, if you're into racing games, Forza Motorsport 2 would probably be a bit dated, but it's definitely one to go back to and look at the journey from where it started. If you want to go back to the first one, then go to the sequel that released in 2007, and just continue with 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7, because each one somehow they always get better. Because, like, when you think of football games like FIFA and stuff, you're like, how do they make a new game every year? Like, it's just a pitch and grass. Same teams, they add a few new players here and there, and people buy that. Forza, they usually have like a 3-year cycle, because they rotate between Forza Horizon and Forza Motorsport. And they still, like, every time they bring out a new Forza game, like, they always add things. And
yeah, each year, it keeps getting better with a lot of things. And I'm sorry that I had to do a quick pause. Of course, real life gets in the way, and FedEx is knocking at the door. So I appreciate the save. So I want to continue about Forza Motorsport, because we have a lot of racing fans in the chat. More specifically, a good friend of mine who I consider a brother. That's UK Dazaris. And you know, we're on the hunt to get him to 1,000 subs. So if you're not subbing this guy, it's a mistake, because not only does he put out really quality content, but he is the community good guy. He moderates so many people's shows for the price of nothing. So if you're in the chat and you're having a good time and you're not seeing any racist, you know, a-holes or people who are homophobic or just trolls, it's probably because UK Dazzers has booted them out. And I trust him indubitably. He's one of the few people that have permission to basically bounce anyone that he feels is being inappropriate. So I appreciate that, and you know, get out there and follow him. But yeah, Forza, you know, there's something when there are games for a console that when you mention it strikes an accord, right? You mentioned God of War, you think of PlayStation. When you mention Mario, any of them, any of the 1,000 that they've had, you think of Nintendo, of course, you know. But when you say Forza, for me, it brings a smile to my face because I'm an Xbox first gamer. Everyone knows that. And I remember playing Forza Motorsport 2 and just being blown away. I mean, you look at it now, and obviously the game has aged. I mean, we're in 2018. The game is 11 years old. But even with that said, you could still logistically pick it up and it would play like a current Forza game, just not look as good. So I think that's really saying something, that we have a game that came out in 2007 and in 2018 is as relevant as it's ever been. What's your take on that? I mean, do you think that this is saying something for the team making this game?
Oh yeah, like Turn 10 Studios, the developers of it, like what they do with Forza, like I said multiple times, I'm not a racing game fan, but I can see, and I've played the demos of the games. Like I play every time like a new Forza game comes out, they always release a demo. So I always download it and check it out. I just never have the money, and I'm not too into the racing games. Nothing against it. Just like there's always so many other games coming out that I have to choose and pick, unfortunately. So, but like I can always see the improvements, and that's why I was like saying, comparing it to like soccer games, like sports games that release all the time without any differences, like no big major ones. But Forza always comes out, it always looks like amazing graphically. They add so many cars, tracks, and just the being able to customize your like vehicles, like your car, the way they allow you to do it. Like I've seen so many amazing like customized cars, like from TV shows and stuff like that. And that's just been getting more advanced every game, and being able to create your own car skin and share with other people for them to download it and stuff like that is hands down amazing. But like if people were to go back and play the second one, they'd be getting the same experience because it's still the same the studio. Obviously they've learned a lot and improved things, but they're still going to be getting a racing game that handles extremely well with the cars, and it's going to be worth your money. It's going to be filled with content. Obviously it's going to look dated, but car games, like sports games, always looked really good. Like they always look good, so I don't think it's going to look that bad, because they always look better than most games because they just put so much into the detail on the cars and the tracks. Because
Yes.
like I know I'm not going to say it's easy, but they have less to focus on when they're not creating a whole world, you know. So they fully invest in the tracks and just the graphics on the detail on the cars. So I'm sure the game would look well, and they've always, well, from all their newer games, which I assume Forza Motorsport 2 would be the same, would have like whatever frame rate it is, it would be solid. If it's a 30 frames game or 60 frames game, they'd have that like locked in.
Yes, I mean there's no doubt about the quality and the ingenuity that you get with every Forza, and we're very fortunate that we get a new Forza every year. A lot of people, you know, especially the trolls on the other side of the tracks, meaning the ponies, and that's not the PlayStation, you know, populace. I'm just talking about that because each each section of gamers, you have your normal people that will, cheer for the other team because they won, and then you'll have just the people that ruin this community. And the ponies have been, hard pressed to say, well, it's, your three pillars are just Halo and Gears and Forza. Forza is a big deal. It's just a racing game. Well, considering millions and millions of people are still playing Forza Horizon 3, says a lot. So I look forward to Forza every year. I'm like you. I'm not the biggest fan of motorsport, though I do buy it. It's just not my thing. I like driving all over the place. I like driving over the tracks, through the tracks, underneath the tracks, over the tracks on jumps. So Horizon is better suit for me. So obviously, I'm looking forward to Forza Horizon 4. But we talked about Sony. We talked a ton about the 360, but I don't want to forget about the Wii. Now, for a lot of reasons, the Wii is always going to be one of the shiny diamonds in the crown that Nintendo wears. But this particular year saw the release of not one, not two, but 3 different Mario games. And they were different, every one of them, and they had something to offer everyone. And I think I would feel really crappy if I didn't talk about them. The 3 games in question were Super Paper Mario, which was an RPG light, Super Mario Galaxy, which is probably still one of the most revered Mario games in the franchise, and Mario Party 8. Each game for the Wii offered a different play style, and I think that is why Nintendo decided to release those 3 games at once. You don't normally see a Mario game released alongside another Mario game. It doesn't usually happen. But because these games were so different, they really stand out even today. What is your take on Nintendo releasing this many Mario games in one year, but all of them offering something different for each player that decided to pick them up?
You think it's not something you'd see often or anyone else do it. So I think it's kind of brave for them to do something like that, because they could all kind of compete, even though they're different. The fact that they're Mario could kind of split the market, but they were like, these are different enough, and Mario has a fan base, and there's lots of different type of gamers. So we're going to release all 3 of them in the same year, and let's see how it goes. So that takes a certain amount of bravery, because it could have went the other way. And not only were they releasing those games, they were all like really highly rated, received extremely well polished and everything like that. So they weren't like, oh, these are all rushed games, they're just throwing them out. And only one of them was good, and Paper Mario was like terrible, but it wasn't like that. That wasn't the story. They brought out 3 high quality Mario games. Unfortunately, I've only ever played a little bit of Paper Mario and a little bit of Super Mario Galaxy recently. Like literally like 3 weeks ago, when I was in my family's, I did get lend a copy of Super Mario Galaxy for the Wii. Nice. I never owned it, so I do plan on getting to that whenever I can, because I've always been super interested in the Mario Galaxy series, because I just, every time you hear Mario, you always hear about Super Mario Galaxy because of how well they're received and how much everyone loved them and think they're fantastic games. I've always been pumped to play them, but never had the extra money to get them when they came out.
Dude, you're not the only one with a backlog of shame. Everybody in the chat or anyone that's going to be watching this could look back and hide their head in shame that they didn't get to some of these great games.
Yeah. But like the Mario Galaxy series at the time, like with the first one and the sequel, they were like getting 9s and 10s and just reviewed extremely well. So I always preferred the 3D Mario games. Like Mario 64 is like one of my favorite games. So like that game is amazing. I grew up playing on the N64, like just jumping in the pictures, going through the levels that way. Like Mario Sunshine, also an amazing 3D Mario game, which I think wasn't received as well as it should have been, because they haven't made like another one. But yeah, all 3. Like I adore the 2 that I did play a bit, so I kind of have like a general gist of like the quality and the experience. But like I said, I just didn't have the money to get Mario Galaxy, but now that got lended to us. And like even when you do find like Nintendo games, regardless of how old they are and the system they're on, they're still expensive. They never go down super cheap in price, especially when games are still selling like a Wii game. They'd be overcharging for it. So you'd never find games from Nintendo cheap because they
No,
refuse.
you never do. That's the problem with like for instance, you think you're gonna catch a sale, and the best you're gonna do is probably $10 off, maybe 15 if you're lucky.
They know how strong their IPs are, just even years later. And something like Mario Odyssey, because lots of people still want to play it regardless. The second they hear about that game and how well it was received, if you're a Mario fan, you're gonna want to play it.
Oh, listen, I'm gonna say this. I am still waiting, and I'm actually shocked that it hasn't happened yet. But Mario Odyssey, not Odyssey, Galaxy 1 and 2 almost need to be ported over to the Switch. I don't care what they charge. I would buy them instantly. I think Nintendo knows that. Those games deserve a revival of sorts. I'm hoping that, I mean, there's actually a Nintendo Direct going on right now as this podcast is going on, which I'm interested to see what they're going to show. I know it's supposed to be about the Super Smash Brothers Switch edition, so I'll check that after. But, you know, it is coming up on an hour, and I do want to do our top 5 games of 2007. But I want to talk about one other title that is so relevant in 2018 that it is shocking how many titles in this series have come out since its inception in 2007. And of course, I'm talking about Assassin's Creed. Now, this is a game that was extremely ambitious, to say the least. Probably it's really large map to traverse, a lot of mechanics, a lot of stealth involved. It wasn't certainly one of my favorites. As a matter of fact, I remember buying it, the collector's edition, because, you know, everyone knows I love collector's editions. And I wound up selling it, I think, to my brother Neo Mental, because I was like, nah, this is just not my thing. And then I went on vacation to California, where my wife's sister used to live in Burbank. And her husband, we bought the Xbox 360 as a Father's Day gift. And, you know, he at the time, he was an artist. So he liked, you know, all of the artwork in games. He was, you know, I introduced that to him. And Assassin's Creed had incredible vast cities that looked, just amazing. So I bought the game for him, and he played it. And I started watching him play, and I'm like, you know, this game looks actually kind of dope. And I wound up rebuying it while I was there in California and played it like it was going out of style. But what's amazing is this game, as it stands, is 11 years old, and the series, you know, though it has had its ups and downs, is really on the swing up since the last one in 2017, and of course this year we're getting the one that looks very similar to 300 in many aspects, which has me super excited because I love that film. But what do you remember about Assassin's Creed that either makes it, as you know, it brings a smile to your face or a frown?
Going back all the way to the original Assassin's Creed, like, I love the game, but of all the games that we talked about today, if I was to say which one aged the worst or I wouldn't like as much now, would be the first Assassin's Creed game, because just the missions at the time, like even though it was repetitive and stuff like that, it was still kind of new. You know, there wasn't many games like this that were as big and offered as much with a cool combat system. So it was okay for its time like that. But now, after playing so many other games that are similar or evolved from that, to go back would like be negative. Like, I think, like, overall the game will still look okay. It wouldn't age perfectly well because I've seen pictures of it and stuff, and it doesn't age extremely well, but it'd be playable. But when I did play it, I loved it. Like, it's what got me into Assassin's Creed. Even after so many bombs with the series, like game-wise, because Ubisoft, you know, quality control with that series, they kind of took a dive a few years ago, you know? So They did kind of fix it with Origins by giving it extra time to cook before they released it. But now they are going back to their yearly releases with Assassin's Creed Odyssey. So let's see if that's going to be a mistake for them or not. But who knows? From what I've seen, it looks all right. So, but Origins is a game that's still in my backlog. I do own it. I just had to get to it. But the first game, I loved it when I played it. Being able to go on horses, do all this cool stuff. Being like, the second you get that counter ability, and you just feel like you're unstoppable, just countering everyone, fighting the Templars. I remember I always used to just go out and personally look for a Templar to fight because they were the only ones that actually like challenged you, kind of. Because the normal people, like normal soldiers, were just attacking you one at a time, not really doing that. But the Templars were doing their own counters and stuff like that. So it was just like pretty neat and cool. Overall, the story was all right. It wasn't super bad. It was enough to get me interested, and it did end on a cliffhanger. So I was all like, oh, what's going to happen? Like, I can't wait. And then the second game came out, and that was awesome. Probably the best one. Then Assassin's Creed came out, and 3 came out, and, you know, that's where everyone differs from the franchise with the ending to that game. So
yes, yeah, it was a bit of a, you get a little taken aback by that particular ending. But, you know, we talked about the new games, the new franchises that are still relevant in 2018 that launched in 2007, and then we talked about some of the other sequels that even today still are important and are still continuing. But I want to finish off today's show with your top 5 games, going in backwards order from 5 to 1. I have my list. I'm interested to hear in the chat. Out of what we talked about today, what was your game? Spell it out in caps so I can, you know, give you a shout out so it's easy to see. What was this message is for the chat? What game in 2007 still reigns supreme for you personally? And, you know, we'll discuss that in a second. But Dean, in regards to you, my brother, for you, what stands out? What's your top 5 list in backwards order?
Okay. So I'm looking at the list I have written down, and I look like I cheated because I wrote more than 5 games. So I'm trying to eliminate last minute. It's like, why did I do this to myself? But that's the thing. There's so many amazing games that came out in 2017. Like, I thought, oh yeah, it's going to be easy to write a top 5. And then I'm looking and I love that game. I love that game. I love that. Oh shit, there's more than 5 games here. So I'm just going to give props out to Call of Duty 4. While it's not in my top 5, amazing game. We already talked about it, so I'm not going to go into it. So Resident Evil 4, hands down, amazing. Start to finish, you're in for something different because it was the first game to have the new camera system,
right?
Kind of like third person. So playing as Leon, I was about to say Chris, and I was like, no, you play as Leon, the awesome guy. So yeah, everything about that game, from the more actionly focused but not too much, it's still kind of survival horror because you're still scared, and it has cool scenes like action, like button press moments where you're going against the guy with the knife. I can't remember his name, but that scene was amazing. Overall, the game just gets better and better as you're playing it, and I remember really enjoying the ending. The only part I didn't like was the girl that you have to say,
yes,
Leon, Leon.
The sniper like, part with the pain in the rear. Yes, that's correct.
That's the only negative part about Resident Evil 4. So, yeah. So Resident Evil 4, recommend it. If you've never played it, it's on literally every system. Come to the Switch very soon, more likely. So, yeah, get it. Next, I'll have Dragon Ball Budokai 3. Like this game, like if you know me, if you know anything about us, you know I love anime, and Dragon Ball is like my favorite. So any Dragon Ball game, well, I'm not gonna say any Dragon Ball game, but Budokai 3 was hands down an amazing game. It was a third-person fighter. You were able to fly around, 3D fighter. You were able to fly around the map and fight each other, kind of like the Rage and Blast series. But this was before it. It had nearly every character. Like it had a shit ton of characters, like over 150, I think. Like I had nearly everyone from the series, but because there were so many, they were kind of similar, but they had their different moves, but the fighting style was kind of the same. But these games were just more fun based. Like you played it more for fun, and me and my friends, we all love Dragon Ball, so we always used to just play local. doing tournaments and stuff like that. So I had a blast playing that game. Uncharted, hands down, amazing. Like, even though I didn't play in 2007, if I did, my opinion would not have changed. So it's on my list because it's still released in 2007. I'm saying 2017 is so catchy. So yeah, Nathan Drake. When I played Uncharted, it became one of the best game series that I've played. I love and adore it. If a new Uncharted game was to be announced and it was to continue, like after 4, like where they teased with their kid, their daughter, or anything like that, Nathan Drake's brother, anything like Uncharted wise, if Naughty Dog were doing it and it was continuing the story, I'd be so happy if it was done right and not like some kind of cash grab. Like the Uncharted series, Nathan Drake, like he's just such a likable character. The Avengers, like it's just so fun. And I always thought the series was underrated compared to The Last of Us, because I actually prefer the Uncharted series over The Last of Us. I know that's like putting 4 games against one, so it's not really fair. But yeah, I love Uncharted.
No, never wrong with that, dude. Listen, you like what you like.
Uncharted? No, I said Uncharted. Halo 3. Obviously, Halo 3 has to be on the list. After putting... it's probably an unrealistic number to even say how many hours I put into it. Like, I played this for so long. The thing with Halo 3 was it was everyone's online game. Well, most people's online game for years, because Bungie brought out map packs. It was so active, like it sold so well, so it always had a massive online base. You were always able to find a game. You were always able to do custom games. People will always be sending you game invites to custom matches, and you just be adding everyone as your friend, and you'd be going in playing Infection, playing on some cool Forge maps that awesome people made. Like, I could even remember some, like in the top of my head, like just like the Stargate map. And then,
dude, there's so many memories with Halo 3. It's just bananas, dude.
Like one of my favorite modes was like the fat zombie mode, where like he walks uber slow, like he's barely moving, but he's like unkillable. So you're just like running away, and then as he's killing them, like more and more zombies. But it was pretty cool. So yeah, awesome campaign. Halo 3. If you never played it, you should fix that. Play 1, then 2, then 3. Play 4, play them all. Get the Master Chief Collection. It's easier.
Well, that's coming soon with the 4K update. So wait, because I've seen some screenshots of that. I'm in the program. I'm waiting for my my download code. I'm going to play test the Master Chief Collection. I cannot wait. If you haven't played 3, play the other ones first, but play 3. It's amazing.
Yeah, so yeah, and it's also coming to Game Pass when that update goes live for people too, because they announced at E3 that the Master Chief Collection will be getting added to Game Pass. So if you have Game Pass, I guess wait for it.
Yes.
Instead of buying it. So my top game for 2007, geez, I nearly did it again, is Mass Effect, hands down. Like, no one's close to it to me, because Mass Effect is on a different level. For me personally, because like I said, it's a franchise I love and adore. I put it with my top games ever made. Like, it could be my, well, it'd be definitely not my first, because Zelda goes to my first, so it'd be like second. Or so Mass Effect, just the series in general. And like I said, the first one may not be the best gameplay wise, but there's nothing that you'll dislike about the story and the stuff that happens in that game. The characters you meet, like Garrus, Rex, like all the characters, Liara, like they're so iconic to the series. Like, if someone was like just seeing a picture, they'd know the name of the character.
Yes.
Because that's something Mass Effect Andromeda didn't have. You didn't have that attachment to the characters. But anyone that put a few hours into it would more likely recognize a character that they spent a little bit of time with in Mass Effect, because they were so well written and you knew stuff about them pretty early on to get invested in. So yeah, Mass Effect, best of 2007 for me. What was yours?
Okay, well, I'm going to start out with Uncharted, the original on the PlayStation 3. Still holds a real strong place in my heart. Again, not perfect by any stretch of the truth, but Nathan Drake, that character was so well written and so well acted that it just, his persona. I mean, I grew up a huge Indiana Jones fan, so getting to not just watch, but actually play a game that was based on the, not the lore of the aspiring adventurer in the form of Nathan Drake it was incredible. And again, not perfect by any stretch of the truth, might be the weaker of this of all the titles in that series, but certainly it broke ground for us to get the amazing Uncharted 4 that that if you haven't played it, you need to play that game, but play the series first in order. Next up for me was Mass Effect as at my number 4 spot. Mass Effect, I sunk hundreds and hundreds of hours. That was a game that you could just keep playing. And again, it's not perfect, and no one is ever going to forget those bloody elevator rides that took 10 weeks to get through a loading screen. But the game was just such an amazing story. I've beaten it numerous times. I am almost saddened, and I'm going to keep up my crusade to get someone from EA and BioWare to hear me and release an HD collection or a 4K collection, if you will, of that series on modern consoles. I think that everyone has been asking for it. I've done polls on it. I've done videos on it. We've talked about Mass Effect before, so I think it's time that we get a chance to play. Again, you can play it on EA Access, and they're all backwards compatible. But I want to experience those games, in a prettier fashion. But also, I want to explore the achievements all over again. I think that would be fantastic. For number 3, and we didn't talk about this, but Crackdown for me personally was amazing. Getting to do the open world scene as a police officer, being that it was my past career. But then becoming a super soldier, and who could forget collecting those blue orbs? I mean, I went out of my way to find all 500 of them, and the last one actually took me 2 weeks to find, where I was literally flying around in a helicopter and checking the map, and literally drew a hand-drawn map of areas I had searched just to get that achievement. Drove me crazy, but it was so worth it. At number 2. Halo 3, and by all rights, it should be number 1, but Halo 3, for a lot of reasons, ends up in my top 5, but number 2 because of the amount of time I put into the single-player story, but the multiplayer, that I had gained friends from all around the world, and it was pretty amazing that something as simple as a video game you could meet so many new people. That's the beauty of Xbox Live way back then. And my number 1 game, and I don't think this is going to come off as a surprise to anyone, Bioshock is my number 1 game of 2007 for so many reasons that we've already discussed. I don't want to bore anybody, but the story and the twists and turns and the atmosphere and everything that Ken Levine and that team were doing at the time were. I mean, look, I tell you, you know how the game is amazing. You could rate the game on how amazing it is. Play that game now, and it feels like a new game, and that's why it's my number 1 spot. Because I picked it up last year in the collection, the HD collection, and I thought there was going to be a bit of a learning curve because of the controls. Because a game that's that old doesn't usually translate to being a game that you could play in modern times. It happens all the time. That game played like a modern game that you'd be playing in 2018, and for a game to be 11 years old and still maintain the control that precise is that in itself is amazing. But what I'm going to do is I want to first thank the few super chats that I got. Jay Rivera and Jay Zayas, thank you so much. These super chats really do mean a lot for me. You'd be surprised how well that they do help, in the long run. All YouTubers put a lot of work in, and none of us do it. At least I don't. I can't speak for everyone. I don't do it for money. I do it for the love of gaming. I do it for the love of community. When I get gifts like this, it is pretty amazing, and it's definitely well appreciated. I want to thank the chat once again. You guys are amazing. You show up to my shows each and every week. And even though this may not be the topic that you want to hear, you still hang around and you're still talking about it with other gamers. And that's a big deal for me, because, when I first started the channel, I didn't think anyone was going to listen. And to have fans is just something it's actually surreal to me. So a big shout out to the chat. And Dean, once again, you're my go-to guy for these shows. Nintendo Direct, the 199 super chat, Nintendo. Thank you so much, dude. I do appreciate it. If you don't know who this guy is, he is the source for Nintendo information. He's great to podcast with. I've been on his show. He's been on my show. I believe, like I said, Nintendo had their Direct today, and he probably posted it on his channel. So head over to Nintendo Direct's YouTube channel and give that a sub and a look. Thank you again for the super chat. It's greatly appreciated. And Dean, again, getting back to you, my brother. Oh, Indie Gamer, thank you again with this 199 super chat. That is pretty awesome, dude. I'm really thank you so much for that. People think, like I said, you say 199, you're like, oh, no big deal. Trust me, any super chat is a big deal, and it's greatly appreciated. Now, Dean, before I lose my point again, you are a fantastic YouTuber. I'm very proud of you that we were able to get you to the 1,000. But that's when I say you got you to your 1,000 because of the content you put out. I kind of just pushed you over the finish line and it wasn't just me. I reached out to the community. Some people didn't even know they weren't. I got a lot of messages. Oh, boom! I didn't know I wasn't sub to him. Boom! Here's a sub. So for you to get that 1,000 was a big deal. And you did it well in advance before your birthday. But you know what? None of us stop at 1,000. We want to keep pushing forward with new content and new fans and new, ideology brought to the channel. So tell people where they could find you on Twitter. Tell people where they can sub to your channel if they're not already subbed.
If you want to follow me on Twitter, at Dean5578, that is my Twitter name. Usually I tweet things, retweet a lot of stuff that I like, that I see. So yeah, if you ever want to ask a question, just send us a DM or whatever. I'm always open to suggestions and to put stuff on my channel. I'm always open to ideas. I'm not against that, so I'm against bad stuff, obviously. So yeah, YouTube creating beyond limits, and like Boom said, like I am so happy that I hit my channel goal of 1,000 subscribers before my birthday. I made that goal thinking that it could be reachable, but I didn't think I was actually going to reach it. So I have a big smile on my face, the fact that I actually hit it, and thanks to his support and the community support, like it really does mean a lot. I'm not going to say too much other than I have a special video going up. Hopefully tomorrow or this week, definitely. I look a little bit different now. That's all I'm going to say. So, yeah, expect a 1,000 subscriber video very soon that I did. Because I was so happy that I hit this milestone. I wanted to do something kind of crazy and fun. So, yeah, it's just a little bonus video, I guess. So if you want to check out my content, I usually do reactions. I do gaming videos whenever I can. Time has been a little bit sparse, saying it wrong, lately, so I haven't got to do as many gaming-related videos as I wanted. I still really do want to do a For Honor review, which I do want to get up before it goes Games with Gold, just to let people know how awesome it is, because I love that game. I've been playing it so much recently. Like, I've just been getting back into it because I started playing it, and the game is just so much better now, and the dedicated servers, like, it really helps, because you're not getting...
Yes.
You're not it's not stopping when people leave or having connection issues. Like the game just runs more smooth now, and the combat has been rebalanced, and characters are a lot more fairer now to fight against. So I'm just having a great time playing it again. So expect a review for that, hopefully before it goes Games with Gold. So that should be before the 15th, because it goes Games with Gold on the 16th with the next wave of games. So yeah, if you want to follow us, that is my username, Cream Beyond Limits. I do gaming, reactions, and stuff like that. And I'm always super happy when Boom asks us to come on and do a show with him, because I literally have such an amazing time on this. Like, it's already been over an hour, like I say every time. Like, it does go by so fast, and I've loved every minute of it, just talking about so many amazing games. When you look back at 2007, like, it just has so many games that are still relevant today, or even if they're not bringing out sequels, they're games that are implanted into your brain that you're not going to forget about because they left a mark they were that good that they're not something you're going to forget about. So yeah, thanks again, Boom. Hopefully one day I get a Friday free and I can appear on Breakfast with Boom, because that'd be awesome too.
Oh yeah, it would be great to have you on. Like I said, you have a you have an open door ticket. Any Friday you're on, you call, you hit me up, say I'm I'm off. I could be on. You're on. End of story. But again, that's going to be it for today's show. I thank the chat. I thank the super chats that I did get today. Dean, I thank you for being here. I'm your host, Mr. BoomStickXL, and I look forward to seeing everyone in the chat on Fridays. Breakfast with Boom. I'm going to be making a guest list announcement, and it is going to be a fantastic show. A lot of hot topics, a lot of stuff going in gaming. That's going to be going live Friday morning at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thanks again, everyone. Have an awesome day, and I'll see you on Friday.